vaccination for mumps, measles and rubella. Despite health officials insisting MMR was safe, the number of children being immunised plummeted. Thousands of parents opted to go private and pay for 3 separate injections. The General Medical Council has neither forgiven nor forgotten and has drafted charges of serious professional misconduct against Dr. Wakefield. If found guilty, he could be struck off. The central accusation that his findings were not properly researched. But he still has the backing of parents who took legal action over the issue.
Many parents of young children who've been worried about the safety of the MMR triple vaccination feel that he's been made a scapegoat because actually parents haven't been listened to by the government. They've insisted that the MMR is safe, don't argue with it. And Dr. Wakefield seems one of the people who was prepared to argue with the safety of the vaccination.
A few years ago, the parents of Clapham seemed to be in revolt. The take-up of the vaccine was lower in London than anywhere else in the country. But GPs here now sense a change in attitudes, brought about by the very illnesses which MMR prevents.
I think because there have been reports of sort of little pockets of measles epidemics, mumps as well, people are now becoming more concerned about the illnesses themselves and realising that they do pose more of a threat.
Have you come across many examples of parents now who are coming to you and willing to accept MMR, who categorically refused it when the Wakefield report first was published?
Yeah, quite a large number would fall into that camp, and the number that are refusing it outright and just opting for single vaccines is much, much smaller now. I think because there have been reports of sort of little pockets of measles epidemics, little pockets.
But some parents will not be persuaded of the merits of MMR and have no regrets about ignoring the government's advice.
Absolutely not. I feel I've made completely the right decision, and if and when we do have another child, I shall do exactly the same.
And the legal case being compiled by the GMC could simply reopen the debate.
When he goes to the General Medical Council, he'll undoubtedly defend himself vigorously. There will be a lot of parents who will support him, and I think what it's likely to do, it's likely to raise the controversy again, and parents once again are going to be questioning the safety of the triple vaccination.
Health officials may hope to finally win the public argument and settle the issue, but anything less than a complete victory will leave parents more confused than ever.
The Sky reports Ian Woods there on the latest twist in the MMR scare. Well, since 1998, when Andrew Wakefield published his research, many parents have blamed their child's development of autism on the vaccination. Symptoms of autism typically appear in children aged between 2 and 3, but 40% of autistic children are not clearly diagnosed for a further 3 years, and boys are 4 times more likely to have autism than girls. But of course many parents still believe that the MMR jab delivered in a child's second year can also cause autism, and we'll be debating why they think that in a few minutes' time at 7:30. Why won't parents accept that the MMR jab is safe?
Because actually parents haven't been listened to by the government. They've insisted that the MMR is safe, don't argue with it.
Whole chaos over the MMR. A lot of experts were expecting this peak in measles spread to come earlier, but it is happening. By June there were only 136 cases, but 11 weeks later it had risen to 480. And really it is, just a warning that before schools begin next week, if parents haven't had the first jab or the booster, this is a really nasty illness for children to get, and sometimes can cause deafness and all sorts of things. So,
and I think one forgets, doesn't one, in the last 10-15 years how serious it is. In fact, inside Nigel Hawkes just points out how many people historically were killed by measles in recent years. 1947, 644 deaths.
Yes.
In recent years, 1947, 644 deaths. In recent years, 1947. In recent years, 1947. In recent years, 1947.
Yes, and because, especially when schools begin and so many younger children are now going into nurseries and so on, there are more children spending their childhoods out of the home. This is going to be serious unless parents kind of shape up. But I think it was difficult when people were convinced that it was going to cause autism, and so...
Yeah, and those claims back in 1998, but of course discredited since then.
Yeah.
Because actually parents haven't been listened to by the government. They've insisted that the MMR is safe, don't argue with it.
Good evening. There's been a sharp rise in the number of cases of measles this summer. The Health Protection Agency is warning parents that their children must be fully vaccinated against the disease as the new school year gets underway. It's concerned that some parents don't realise quite how serious the disease can be.
Measles is a notifiable disease, and at this lab they track the virus. It used to kill dozens of children each year, leaving others blind or brain damaged. It used to kill dozens of children each year, leaving others blind or brain damaged, and scientists still fear its potential.
Well, we are worried. Although the numbers are still small compared to the historical time, we're always worried about measles because very rarely it can kill.
It used to kill dozens of children each year, leaving others blind or brain damaged.
Very rarely it can kill. We hadn't had any deaths from measles really since the early 1990s, but unfortunately we had one death last year.
It used to kill dozens of children each year, leaving others blind or brain damaged.
Very rarely it can kill. Unfortunately we had one death last year, and we don't want any more to happen.
3-year-old Stevie is about to have her second MMR jab, but by the time they start school, 1 in 4 children still hasn't had their MMR booster, leaving many of them unprotected.
Because actually parents haven't been listened to by the government. They've insisted that the MMR is safe, don't argue with it.
Exception for a doctor accused of professional misconduct. For his supporters, Andrew Wakefield is a hero, and despite prompting a major health scare, he seemed unrepentant.
No regrets, thank you.
But he may ultimately have cause to regret the way he went about his research. Now, despite the protest, this hearing is not about the safety of MMR. This hearing is not about the safety of MMR.
Because actually parents haven't been listened to by the government. They've insisted that the MMR is safe, don't argue with it.
Dr. Wakefield also advised parents to opt for single vaccines rather than MMR, but it's now emerged he'd patented his own single measles jab.
Many parents of young children who've been worried about the safety of the MMR triple vaccination feel that he's been made a scapegoat because actually parents haven't been listened to by the government. They've insisted that the MMR is safe, don't argue with it. And Dr. Wakefield seems one of the people who was prepared to argue with the safety of the vaccination.
Drug regulators aren't doing enough to protect us against dangerous medication, according to a paper written in the BMJ, the British Medical Journal. It says they form too close a relationship to drug manufacturers and that they don't always act in the best interests of the patients.
Whooping cough is endemic among school children, despite the fact most have been immunised. A study out today claims that over a third of children who go to their doctor with a cough have evidence of the infection.
The system for referring patients with suspected breast cancer is failing, according to a new study. Researchers in Bristol said targets for seeing urgent cases within 2 weeks meant non-urgent cases were having to wait too long for treatment. More than a quarter of patients eventually diagnosed with cancer were not initially considered urgent.
Now, it has emerged that no scientists are to be prosecuted over the controversial experiments on human volunteers at the Porton chemical warfare establishment. The Crown Prosecution Service says a review carried out after an inquest on a volunteer who died there shows there is insufficient evidence to bring charges. BBC South Today's Chris Conover reports.
An inquest into the death of Ronald Madison in a gas chamber at Porton Down half a century ago resulted in a verdict of unlawful killing, resulting in no prosecutions. It's been decided there's insufficient evidence to charge any of the surviving scientists. Some of the veterans say they're not entirely surprised, but there's still resentment about the lack of top-level acknowledgement of what happened to them.
The thing that horrifies me is the complete lack of any sort of condemnation for the people that really matter, that is, MOD and people like them. And nothing is ever said to bolster our confidence that they've got the system right.
But this is not the end of the affair. 500 veterans of the guinea pig experiments are pursuing personal claims, hoping to win compensation for conditions they believe they're suffering now as a result of what they experienced then. The veterans are ageing and some are no longer around, but the campaign is continuing. Chris Conover for BBC South Today.